What if you could peek behind the veil of life and death and gather intelligence with your mind alone? Lynn Buchanan, a key figure in US government's Stargate Project, transformed from a small-town southern boy with a dual-faith upbringing into a pioneering remote viewer. Raised in the rich tradition of Methodist and Baptist churches, Buchanan believed he understood the clear-cut destinies of heaven and hell. Yet his journey, from Army sergeant to a crucial player in the top-secret military project, challenged these notions and unveiled astonishing truths. In today's video, I'll be reading Chapter 15, The Afterlife, from his book The Seventh Sense, where Buchanan shares his incredible experience with remote viewing, his contributions to the Stargate Project, and the profound revelation that reshaped his understanding of life, death, and what lies beyond. Without further ado, here is Chapter 15, The Afterlife. My grandfather was a Methodist minister, and my parents were Baptist, so I was raised in both Methodist and Baptist churches. There are major differences between those two churches, but in the Southern Bible Belt, where I grew up, there was really only one discernible difference between them, and that was the difference in the volume level of the singing at the Sunday and Wednesday night meetings. The two denominations often have dinner on the grounds together, give joint choir recitals at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and in general have found a great, peaceful coexistence. Small towns in the South grew up around the church, and it's a very important part of the community's life. If you grew up in one of those two churches, you were home folk. I grew up, like most Southern boys, with church a very major, integral part of my philosophical and religious life, even if not always a major part of my day-to-day life. For the most part, I have always said that everything that has ever truly helped me in life, I learned in the church. I have also always said that everything that has ever truly hurt me in life, I learned in the church. One thing I had learned, but never really realized how dogmatically it had become ingrained into my psyche, was when you die, you get judged according to your deeds, and from there get sent to heaven or hell. If in life you had accepted Jesus as your Savior, you were saved from judgment and went straight to heaven without your past deeds ever being considered. But of course, while you were still alive, everyone on earth had already been judging your every deed to determine whether you had truly accepted Him or not. So either way, you had to really watch out for those deeds. They'll get you every time. That was an integral part of the unconscious mental framework I carried over into my military project. My out-of-arm experience at the Monroe Institute, which I described in Chapter 1, confirmed that I had a soul, and it assured me that what I had learned in Sunday school was probably true. Yet it also opened the door to many questions that had never been posed to a young boy growing up in the conservative, rural South. Could the soul and body part ways for an hour or so without dying? Could it happen when you were out of body? Could some other soul jump in and take your place? As time went on, I became more and more acquainted with the psychic field and many various people within it. Yet an integral part of the Southern Baptist belief system is that psychic functioning is evil, and you will go to hell for doing it. Though you might act upon any spontaneous act of psychic awareness, you should never give credit to it or admit that it happened. So the introductory talk that Skip gave me when I was to do my first remote viewing session shook me to my very core. The restraints that had burdened me and held me down for a lifetime were suddenly lifted. The relief was enormous. One day, at our weekly office meetings about 3 years into my military assignment, a discussion took place that dealt with individual viewers' strengths and weaknesses. Since I ran the database, I had access to those data, and ultimately, the conversation came around to me to give a listing of the strengths and weaknesses of each viewer sitting there. As I listed off the ones I knew for certain, I came to my own. I said, one of my own strengths is that I can access people mentally better than anyone else, but I can't seem to access people who are dying. I guess the rule holds true that anything you'll turn your eye away from, you'll tend to turn your mind away from too. The person who was then the training officer heard me say that, and over the next 3 or 4 months, he fed me dozens of targets of people dying. He picked targets of people who were dying slowly of illness, suddenly and unexpectedly in car crashes, explosions, war, and 100 other scenarios. I could not tell the difference between this and other mental access targets, because all I got was coordinates. In normal sessions, the monitor would have me access a person at a known time and then give me a command for the time the person could provide me the information we needed. For those targets where I was, say, picking up on a foreign leader's plans and intentions for the next day, such sessions format was normal. But for these dying person targets, the monitor moved me up and through the moment of the target person's death and out the other side. I call this the spinach period of my training. I know it was good for me, but it certainly wasn't pleasant. During this time, I successfully accompanied people through the death event and over to the other side about 67 times. What I learned about death through these sessions changed my entire outlook on the subject. Through all the experiences, one of four things usually happen on the other side. By the other side, I mean the end place, after the tunnel of light, being greeted by long dead loved ones, etc. Those experiences did happen to most people that I accompanied into heaven, but not all. I would say that the experience was not present in about one third of those people. It never happened to any of the ones I accompanied into hell, nor any of the ones I accompanied into oblivion. It only happened 3 times to those who wound up reincarnated. Those four things I have arbitrarily labeled heaven, hell, oblivion, and reincarnation. I no longer have access to the unit's database, so do not have any way to determine which of my targets went where. That is not really important, as there was seemingly no rhyme or reason to the types or number of people who met at different ends. Also, the people targeted were all subjects of intelligence interests, so I doubt that data would be statistically significant for the general population anyway. Heaven. There were a number of people who died and wound up in a place that had all the physical attributes of the real world, except that everything there was perfect. There was an ambience of absolute and wonderful bliss. The sky was the deepest and most beautiful blue. Every tree was perfectly formed. The grass made a perfect carpet, and there was an overwhelming sense of joy and happiness. I was never allowed to stay long in this place, but was, in effect, gently ushered out of the session by some unseen force after only a minute or so of being there. I was not able to reassess the person who passed over in the present time viewing, again to find out what happened after that. This led me to assume that once there, they stayed. Hell. A good many people went through the death experience and immediately wound up in a place so dark that I can only describe it as a glowing blackness. The blackness was so strong that it had its own presence. There was always the visual experience of a very dull and sinister orange glow with no real form or shape just out of sight ahead. A good look at the dull orange glow was always blocked by some person-like thing which stood there, eagerly awaiting the just dead person. I find it very hard to adequately describe the experience, which never lasted more than about a tenth of a second. The entire experience of the place was one of total and complete horror. I never actually saw any of the things that caused the horror, but I was suddenly and helplessly overwhelmed by it nonetheless. After such a session, the fear and horror accompanied me home, into my dreams and into my daily thoughts. It was usually a week or more before I could do any effective viewing again, of any target, of any kind. I hated these targets. I was never able to detox from the experience. Oblivion. The third class of places where people went after death was no place at all. I would follow the person through the death experience, and suddenly there would be no person at all. I could move back in time before their death and would still be in touch with them, so I knew that I had not lost the session contact. But if I moved forward again, beyond the moment of death, there was simply no person there. I made searches for these people, but never found one of them again. They just stopped existing. Reincarnation. A fourth fate appeared to be reincarnating into another life. The person would suddenly have other physical characteristics, different surroundings, different life situations, etc. There was a very strange and unexpected aspect about this type of person, though. I have always thought that reincarnation would involve a person coming back as a baby and beginning the life process all over again. This was not the case for those whom I accompanied through this process. Every one of them suddenly became a child of around 12 or 13 years old. One of these even had the awareness of his new status as well as the memories of his old life and was, for a moment, very confused about it. I remember that this person had been some sort of political leader in the previous life, and at the moment of death, he suddenly found himself standing in the front yard of a modern, suburban-style American home. He found himself wearing a cowboy outfit and complete with furry chaps, cowboy hat and all. He was standing with a cowboy pose and looking across the front yard at his parents, who were taking his picture and laughing. He didn't know these people. He looked to his right and saw his younger sister. When he realized what had happened, he accepted the situation, and I lost contact with him. I had accompanied him as he became a new person. In later sessions, I tried to access the originally targeted foreign leader in present time and found a young American boy. When I gave him the command to move back past the moment when he appeared in that body, I got the originally tasked political figure. This kind of session made me wonder about the bar mitzvahs and the bat mitzvahs and many other coming of age rituals of the various cultures of humankind. There were other types of ending up places that I began to look for as I worked these targets, but never found. I thought that I would find at least one soul that got lost or stayed on as a ghost, but within the group of targets I had been given, none did. Not one wound up reincarnating as animals or species of beings on other planets. I also learned something else. I had always thought that when people who believe in reincarnation talk about past and future lives, they meant past and future in time. From the people I followed through the death experiences who reincarnated, I've come to believe that this is not so. I now think that the people who believe in reincarnation are using wrong terminology. Many people believe that you reincarnate to learn a specific lesson. What if the best place to learn your next lesson is in the past? Your next incarnation could be in the past time, and your previous incarnation could well be in our future. Of the people who were given to me as targets, one of those reincarnated did so into the surroundings that could clearly tell existed in the past time, and not in the present or future. This person wound up as a skinny young boy standing on the front porch area of a wealthy-looking marble home overlooking the sea. He was dressed in a toga and had every appearance of being a member of a Grecian culture. Later, out of session, I found that this dress and surroundings were Minoan. These targets had no hard and fast feedback, however, and I could have been imagining them all. But I was no longer a novice viewer at this time. I knew from my track record in the database what percentage of my findings were accurate. Although I had no absolute proof, I am confident of my experience in these sessions. Once this series of sessions was completed, I no longer had any problems viewing targets that included death and dying. But what effect did all these targets have on me, personally, especially in the realm of my good Baptist upbringing? It certainly did not provide me with any firm answers. It did, however, make me consider, almost to a point of a conviction, that anyone who says that there is no afterlife might be just as correct as the person who says there is. The person who says that there is only one life on earth may be just as correct as the person who says that we are reincarnated hundreds or thousands of times before moving on. The person who says that there is no heaven or hell may be just as correct as the person who says those places do exist. Such considerations may not be logical, but they do seem to be true. A couple of times I looked up a personal history of the targeted person. After receiving feedback and learning in session what happened to the person after death, I wanted to find out what kind of people go to heaven, what kind go to hell, and what kind get reincarnated, and what kind just cease to exist. Written records of people's lives are never revealing enough to determine such things, and I never felt that such investigation really did me any good. There are those people who believe in heaven, but don't believe that there is a hell. There are those who firmly believe in reincarnation, and those who believe there is no soul, and only oblivion awaits them. I have often wondered whether at subconscious psychic level, we don't all have some hunch of what will happen to us individually. I do not know. But of one thing I am certain, for some people, there is a hell, and I know that I absolutely do not want to be one of those people. Thank you for joining me on this fascinating journey through Chapter 15, The Afterlife, from Lynn Buchanan's book, The Seventh Sense. Buchanan's unique experience and groundbreaking contributions to the Stargate Project had given us a rare glimpse into the mysterious realms beyond our physical world. If you found this exploration as intriguing as I did, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might be curious about the secrets of the afterlife. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective on the Buchanan's insights and your own beliefs about the life after death. Until next time.
Let imagination rise in hues of surprise. In the quiet of thought, every battle is fought. Soaring high on a dream, in the mind to explore. Just behind the closed door, feel the energy spark. In the light, in the dark, in the mind's hallowed hall. consciousness